pretty consistent fill heights on the bottles. That's one of my pet peeves when I look at craft distillers posting bottles to see fill heights that are all over the map.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Uh-oh, what'd you do?
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have it in. Get some more. Let's get some more.
Why, hello, and welcome to My Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. Tonight we have a very special guest. Jim from Liberty Pole Spirits is with us this evening to talk about 3 of the offerings they have, which we are excited to get to because I sniffed one before we started and I had to put it back. So thank you, Jim, for being on the show. Mike, before we go any further, just to knock this out of the way, do you want to talk about the Bar Cart Co-op?
I certainly do. So we are proud members of the Bar Cart Co-op, which is a collection of friends who create content for the whiskey and other distilled spirits public. The Bar Cart Co-op YouTube and Facebook pages have information about upcoming and past special shows, which happen about every quarter. There are blind tastings, distiller panels, discussions of collaborations, and the usage of unique grains. The Bar Cart Co-op, educational and fun for your enjoyment. Then there is the Distillers Talk Show, which is the oldest in the group, hosted by Christy Atkinson and Alan Bishop. It's a conversation with people from distilleries and distillery adjacent that gets into deep and sometimes off the rails and back again discussions with their interviews. New episodes arrive at the end of the work week. And if that one is not nerdy enough, please check out the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. This is the show where Alan Bishop answers any questions about distillation and often puts them to the test. It could be individual grains, entire mash bills, equipment, or methodology. New episodes come out randomly, so subscribe. Then there is the Bourbon Turntable, where they mix the love of music with the love of whiskey. They have conversations with musicians, writers, distillery folk, and common folk about music and whiskey. It releases every Wednesday on all your platforms, including YouTube. And then we have If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, which is a show about the spirits and paranormal among us, as well as the unexplained and the spiritual. Subscribe on Spotify to get all the seasons. And last but certainly not least, we have Little David Levine and Whiskey in My Ring podcast. David talks to people in the industry. David does really good notes. David does good reviews. David goes on barrel picks. He does all the things that we don't do.
All right. Mike, thanks for getting that done.
Yeah. Someday David's going to respond to that.
Yeah. So, all right. Now, Mike, I know you set this up, so I'll let you kick things off with Jim here, but man, it smells like I'm in a golden wheat field. This is.
Yeah. I'll
shut up about it. Sorry, but that's.
Yeah, I think right off the bat, this is your second choice in career, correct?
Oh, yeah, it's my career 2.0. Yeah.
So what did you do before, and then why whiskey?
So I had I had a 30+ year career, mainly in the investment field, investment technology. I was kind of the computer guy at a quantitative investment firm. And, we managed institutional assets like pension funds, and we used computer modeling, and that was kind of my role. But, technology moves so fast. And, when I hit my 50s, I didn't really want to keep learning new languages and learning new technologies. And so about the same time I I had gotten my hands on a 10-gallon hobby still, just for fun. I had no intentionality. I didn't, I didn't get it with the idea of opening a distillery. I just, kind of wanted a little hobby. And it got to the point where I like to, speak of it in like in an XY graphic, that is my interest in my career was going this way. My interest in distilling was going up. And when those lines crossed, I was like, okay, I don't think I can spend another, I had about 10 years before I could really think about retiring. And I couldn't make it. I knew that I wouldn't be able to stick around for another 10 years doing what I was doing. So put a business plan together. It was back in 2014, kind of, it was really the second wave of craft distillers had kind of started opening up at that point in time. So there was still a lot of, what we thought opportunity, especially in our area. There weren't a whole lot of distillers in Western Pennsylvania. So, yeah, we thought we could make it. And, hey, what could go wrong, right? We didn't plan on COVID. We didn't plan on this whiskey bubble. But, we're still here 10 years later. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been a heck of a fun ride.
So when you were starting this out, was there a distillery that you looked at as, all right, that's like not necessarily a target, but as kind of like a, more or less a guide? You're like, all right, I want to do something like this.
So there's a distillery in basically downtown Pittsburgh, Wiggle Whiskey, and
okay. Yeah.
we know those guys, and they did yeoman's work to kind of establish craft distilling laws in Pennsylvania. The original owners were attorneys, and they worked closely with Dad's Hat on the other side of the state. So those are really the OG distillers, in Pennsylvania. We toured Wiggle. We talked to those guys. We admired what they did. And Dad's Hat as well. We just did a collaboration with Dad's Hat last weekend. Actually, we did a kind of a cross-state 2-barrel blend. So those were really the two that that at the time had already established themselves when we were getting ready to open up.
So did you guys, when you were starting up, were there some Pennsylvania laws that you had to overcome?
Mike, by the time we started up, Pennsylvania had pretty much already established the best set of craft distillery laws in the country.
That's good.
It's a model that I think a lot of other states are still trying to match. From day one, when we opened our doors in 2016, we were allowed to self-distribute. We were allowed to ship within Pennsylvania. We were allowed to operate a tasting room with sampling and bottle sales, and no limits on bottle sales to customers. We could have a cocktail program. We could open up satellite licensed places across the state. So I used to go to conventions and in the 2018 and talk to distillers from other states, and they couldn't believe that we had basically everything that you could hope for a craft distillery. And we had all of them. States were struggling with maybe direct to consumer shipping, or being allowed to sell more than one bottle per year to to a customer. So we've been really blessed to operate in Pennsylvania for sure.
No, that's fantastic. We ask because usually it's the opposite. Usually there is some weird one that we know a bunch about, but they're like, oh no, there's this hidden one.
Yeah.
Or like we had a landmark thing. We can sell more than a 375 at our distillery now.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's crazy. So so I guess while we continue talking about stuff, can we should we get started on one of the whiskeys? We got the Wheated. Can you tell us about the Wheated Bourbon?
So I'm going to kind of even step back before, we focus on the bourbon and just talk about kind of our ethos as craft distillers. And we are huge believers in pot distilled whiskey. We love the inefficiency. We love the flavor profiles. We love pot distilled whiskey. We did a recent expansion, kind of really ramped up production, moved into a much bigger place. And, when we talked to equipment vendors, they were of the opinion that, we were now at a size that we should consider, bringing in a column and, just for efficiency purposes. And we will never do that. So all of our whiskeys that you're going to taste tonight are double pot distilled. The bourbon. So this is our kind of core bourbon. We use Bloody Butcher corn. We don't really call that out on the label like some other places do. We probably should, because it's a fantastic corn. But it's a wheated bourbon. That's what we've been making since day one at the distillery. 72% Bloody Butcher corn, 18% wheat, and 10% malted barley. We do some things, I think that are a little bit outside the box in terms of what we do. We do a 6-day fermentation. So we capture, a lot of really great, secondary fermentation characteristics. We have a lot of wild yeast and some bacteria that float around, and, just really gives a tremendous flavor profile to our whiskeys. If you've never had a red corn or a Bloody Butcher bourbon before, this bourbon, I would tell you, is very approachable, right? But a lot of people, when they think wheated bourbons, they think, okay, this is going to be sweeter. I feel like the Bloody Butcher, it doesn't really necessarily bring in a lot of sweetness, but it brings in more of an earthiness. So I feel like this bourbon is just a really approachable. The wheat softens it up a bit. For a 92 proofer, it's just a great introduction to bourbon for a lot of people.
On the nose, sorry, Morgan, I'll be quiet.
What type of wheat do y'all use? Just out of curiosity.
Red winter wheat.
Okay. That's what I figured.
Yep.
When you were saying the Bloody Butcher at the higher percentage it is, there's a lot of people we know that will put Bloody Butcher in things, but a lot of times it's like a 5 or a 10% thing, and it can have a pretty bold effect even at that on some of them. Right. With this being 72, like you were saying, earthy, it gives you that. I mentioned like a wheat field, but you have that earthy like undertone.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are definitely, intentionally and purposely not trying to recreate a Kentucky bourbon with this whiskey, right? Kentucky does a great job making bourbons. This is a true kind of craft heritage grain pot distilled bourbon.
This is like fresh baked bread in a wheat field on a sunny day in a glass, if I had to summarize it. Over here salivating. I'm ready to try this.
Yeah, we often have what we call fat kid tasting notes. And these are, and mine that I wrote down with this is apple strudel with almond slices, caramel drizzle in a field.
Ooh,
yeah,
I love it.
I think you nailed it with the apple strudel.
Was that just the nose or the taste? Because when you
That's
said it,
the
I
nose.
was drinking it, so that's why.
That's just the nose.
Mm.
And based on the other I like whiskey, period, but I wouldn't have guessed it had this much Bloody Butcher in it without you saying that, because most of the Bloody Butcher that I've had, they embrace the full amount of Bloody Butcher with the, dark, rich, earthy toffee, a little bit of funk and stuff on there. Yeah, this just doesn't. It doesn't. It does. I would have guessed it was that high a Bloody Butcher. No. And is that? I guess the question of that is, how much of that is maybe the Bloody Butcher that you've got, or your product, or your
maybe a
process?
yeast. Sorry.
That's a good question. I've had other Bloody Butcher bourbons that have had quite a different taste profile than ours. I think our process probably plays a lot into kind of the ultimate whiskey that you're tasting. Like I said, we do a 6-day fermentation. And the primary fermentations are typically done in 72 hours. 3 days. You're not going to create much more ethanol out of that fermentation. But like I said, we love the days 4, 5, and 6. There's a lot of wild yeast in our facility, a lot of bacteria. And when I say bacteria, I'm more talking about like the kind of bacteria that's in yogurt, the stuff that's good for you. Those bacterias, they consume sugars just like yeast do, but, they don't produce ethanol. They produce organic acids that, over the course of, barrel aging, just, esterify into these, really nice, fruity flavor compounds. And I think, that long fermentation kind of really helps give that added, those added flavors to what we're producing.
Man.
There is.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of fruit on the palate of this, but like more like the stone fruits, like the apricots, peaches, stuff like that. Honestly, if it was at first sip, it's almost like you're drinking like a fruit beer, because of how fruity it is. I'm a little baffled by that. But, oh man, this literally is, I said it on the nose that it's like sunshine in a glass. It's sunshine on the palate too. This is, Mitch isn't getting this sample. Let's put it that way.
Snooze, you lose. So
Yep.
the barrels, are you guys doing, are you getting Missouri oak barrels, or are you doing Minnesota or someplace else?
No, so we've been sourcing barrels from, kind of on a 50-50 ratio from both Calvin Cooperage in Kentucky and the West Virginia Great Barrel Company.
Okay.
I believe both of those cooperages utilize maybe the same stave mill, which we understand it's Appalachian oak, not Missouri oak, not Minnesota oak. It's, which, we love because we're, Pittsburgh is often considered kind of the edge of Appalachia. So the fact that wood is, fairly local to us, just is again, part of the story, right? Local grains, local wood.
Yeah.
It's like a fruit Danish for me. Or almost, there was a second there I went bear claw, but then you do get more of the other fruit notes in there. So it's like this mixed fruit bear claw. It's beautiful.
Thank you. That whiskey is, it's officially a 4-year-old aged product. We a few months ago we kind of crossed that threshold of only blending barrels that are 4 years old or older. I think the label on that might be kind of the labels that we were, kind of running through until we had to order new ones. But I think that says a minimum of 3.5 years. But our new labels that we have gotten in, kind of reflect that it's now all 4-year-old. 53-gallon whiskey. We have a 5-story Kentucky style rick house that we had Busick Construction from Bardstown, Kentucky, come in and build for us. And, that they were laughing that it's the smallest capacity 5-story rick house they had ever built. They had built smaller in terms of barrel storage capacity, but never ones that were 5 stories. And, we're now kind of really seeing the effect of that with we've had barrels in there for 2 years. They spent the first couple of years at our old location, but we're really able to see what that rick house is doing now after 2 full years, 2 full summers. It's really a magical place for aging whiskey.
Well, it's neat for a craft distillery to be able to have that height to play with. You know what I mean? That gives a lot of different barrel range between the top and the bottom on that. Of course, they laughed
Really
at a distillery here too in Wisconsin when we got one. They came out and they kind of laughed at us too. They said, "Oh, that's cute."
Yeah, they did. And I think one of the guys called it a paperweight, but and we can hold 3,600 barrels in there. So, we're only about a third of the way home. So we've got a lot of runway left in that rick house. So we're excited to keep filling it and see what happens over the next couple of years.
So when you were starting off and making your spirits, was there a particular spirit that's like, this is the one I want to make, or were you just wanting to just make stuff?
That's a great question. I love Irish whiskey. I have always had a soft spot for Irish whiskey, to the point where for the first year, our rye whiskey was triple distilled because I was trying to kind of get an Irish style rye whiskey. One of the reasons why a lot of our mash bills, the Wheated Bourbon, the old Monongahela you're going to taste next, contain wheat is because, we like the softness that wheat brings to a whiskey. And, that was intentional because, I'm a big Irish whiskey guy. I like just the brightness and kind of the approachability of Irish whiskeys.
What's your favorite Irish?
Redbreast. Redbreast 15 is I think doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
A very good choice.
Yeah.
When you were saying this is an entry whiskey, I really like that because a lot of other people have ones that are all a little bit flatter almost, where this at least it leaves your tongue with a nice light hug, so you a little bit after. I don't know, it just has a little more punch than other people's, but it doesn't go over the top. It's still very friendly. It's very well married together. It's a safe ride for somebody if they haven't had it, but I think it's better than some other people's base because I'm still getting it on the sides of my tongue right now, and it's been a while afterwards. But it's not overpowering, or it's just quietly in the background. Which
way back when we were kind of deciding on kind of our core lineup, what proof we were going to come out at. We went through all the different proofing levels, and 92 just hit really well for us. And as a craft distillery, we didn't want to produce an 80 proof whiskey. So just sort of felt like, when I go to a craft brewery, I'm typically not looking for a 4% beer. I wanted something with a little bit of pop. And so that was kind of behind our reasoning for, kind of scaling it up a little bit for 92 proof for all of our core whiskeys.
very cool.
I agree. I think that, it's fantastic by itself, but I'd also love it, in an old fashioned or something along those lines too. I think it's very versatile in what it has to offer from a flavor profile, that it's an easy sipper. So oh man, like I said, Mitch isn't getting the sample. It's really good. Really, really good.
Sorry. I jumped into the next one to sniff that one for a second. Threw me off. It's awesome. That one's I'll wait. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump.
No, that's okay. I finished the other one, and I agree with Morgan. I want to try this because I want the subtleties of all the flavor are really nice, but then I wasn't expecting that the spice and like the peppery finish on it. I was expecting it to be just more like easy and mellow, and it was like, oh, okay, well, the proof is, I think it makes the proof deceiving. You're like, oh, this is going to be super easy. It's only 46, but then it just has that nice finish on the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start sniffing on the next one.
I am. It jumps down a different path, but it's
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay, so who makes the this is a loaded question. Who makes the best Pennsylvania rye?
We are blessed to be in a state that there are so many great rye whiskeys being produced. So I will leave it at that. There are some great rye whiskeys being made in Pennsylvania.
Yes, there is. Okay, outside of Pennsylvania, is there a rye that's, because obviously Pennsylvania rye is its own thing. Is there a rye outside of Pennsylvania that you're like, that's pretty good?
Man. I mean, Sagamore, Sagamore always is at the top of people's lists, for being a really good rye. We're big fans of kind of, not sure, Monongahela style. I'll just come out and say it. We think, that's the style that we like. That's what we've, kind of branded our rye as. But in general, kind of the historical kind of thought about Monongahela rye is it was pre-prohibition. It was probably the most famous whiskey style maybe in the world. It was known far and wide. It is traditionally thought to be made from a high rye mash bill, pot distilled, sweet mashed. Iron City Distilling has opened up about 2 years ago, and they're good friends of ours too. And they have a 3-chamber still. That's really cool. They're only the second 3-chamber still in the country after Leopold Brothers. And so, we kind of like to talk with those guys that we represent 2 different eras of Monongahela rye. Kind of the era that's most well known would be the pre-prohibition, 1800s up through prohibition. A lot of that whiskey was chamber distilled, was distilled on a 3-chamber still. With our focus on the Whiskey Rebellion, we're kind of more, back in the 18th century is kind of the style that we honor, and that was all pot distilled whiskey. But similar thinking, high rye mash bill, pot distilled, and made in the Monongahela Valley of Western Pennsylvania. But I think on our website we talk about, before Kentucky became, kind of the epicenter of the world, epicenter of American whiskey, Pennsylvania was that state. In 1865, Pennsylvania produced, I think 6.5 million gallons of whiskey. Most of it was rye, and that was 3 times more than Kentucky distilled that year. So before Prohibition, Pennsylvania was kind of the home of American whiskey, and most of it was rye. And so we're so honored and proud, and we love working with our fellow distillers to kind of bring back Pennsylvania rye. And it's slow, but it's coming. We're working with other distillers in the state to kind of put together a standard that we can kind of all follow.
That would be good, because there's not there's
TTB statements for it, I'm sure.
Also getting state legislature. I mean, a few years ago they had the Missouri bourbon designation.
Yeah, true.
But that would be certainly, I guess so like, you mentioned Leopold they make a Monongahela style rye. So correct. Like with your guys doing it, and we like Todd, but would that include people outside the state of Pennsylvania, or would it be Pennsylvania Pennsylvania, or what would it be? Straight Pennsylvania rye as a designation, or Pennsylvania Monongahela rye, and then don't allow people like Leopold to call his that.
You can't stop people from using, geographic references. That's not, you can't copyright that. You can't trademark that. We've talked internally with our distilling group, and there are some in the camp that, I mean, when Overholt came out with their Monongahela mash a couple of years ago, that probably generated more publicity for us and for Monongahela rye than anything we could have done. Todd's Monongahela style, his Maryland style, he's much bigger than we are. That we love whenever people talk about Monongahela rye. What we're doing now is still kind of nebulous, and we don't have a really firm handle on how we're going to do it. And I'm not sure Monongahela rye will even kind of be codified. The jury's out on that, but anybody that wants to make a Monongahela style rye, go for it. We love it.
Excuse me, sorry about that. When I first brought, nice, I like that.
And it's the appropriate colors.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
I grew up in Iowa, and I grew up a Steelers fan, so we didn't have any pro teams. So yeah,
and their uniforms, they are Steeler inspired, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And when I first brought this up, and a couple times since, it's almost like if you had a house that had like a library or a parlor in it, and you had a bakery next door where it was like lofting through into it. Man, it is just an overwhelming amount of senses here.
So I can give you a little bit of background on the old Monongahela. So this is I think a 5-barrel blend, 4-year-old. Our barrel entry proof is 108. So the full proof kind of tag on the label is meant to imply that we will add just a bit of water when we blend barrels to bring it back to 108. Bring it back to the entry proof that it went into the barrels at. So it's not quite cast strength, but it's close. And it is a mash bill of, it's 61% Danko rye, 13% malted rye. So that's a total of 74% rye. And like I mentioned earlier, we love wheat. So there's 13% wheat in this, and 13% malted barley. So when you think about the combination of malted rye and malted barley, we have 26% malted grains in this. So I think that biscuity nature comes through on this one as well, from the malt. Again, people talk about ryes being spicy, right? Everybody says ryes are spicy. I've always considered our old Monongahela whiskeys, again, to be much more on the herbal side of the rye spectrum. I don't think they have that smack you in the face spicy rye note that a 95.5 rye can give you, right? I think that's dampened a lot by the wheat and the malt percentage in the mash bill.
Well, my fat guy nosing note here is focaccia bread with lemon zest and a leather book.
Lemon, you nailed it. I mean, that is the kind of the almost universal note that reviewers talk about with this rye. Definitely a citrus note in there. Some pick up orange, some pick up lemon, but lemon is the most common.
We got a question from one of the viewers here, if you can read it.
Oh, definitely both. I mean, and in fact, the next whiskey in the lineup, is going to be, very indicative of our experimental and innovative approach to whiskeys too. We want to be very historical with especially with our Pennsylvania rye. I mean that's you know that whiskey is so kind of historic and cherished that we want to, we kind of want to be true to, to what we think the roots of Pennsylvania rye is. But once we kind of move beyond that, we're fair game. We love to play with peat. We've done a mesquite rye recently. We're very much interested in seeing what we can do that's outside the box.
This is on the taste. This is the oiliness is very silky and smooth as it goes over, as just until you even open up. That is, like I said, it's not thick, but it really feels nice.
Yeah, the viscosity is again something that we really try to we try to get that into all of our whiskeys, and that's one of the reasons why we just love the pot still, and specifically our pot stills. We work with Vendome to kind of create a still that makes it easier for us to get those heavier oils and grain flavors from the mash into the low lines, downward sloping line arm, things like that. So
it's got a very like a buttery biscuit note in the end too. So both you were going for a little bit of that Irish in there, and these two both have a little buttery note coming through, and if you're trying to or not, but it's definitely in there.
Yeah.
Another question
we
from
have, Ben. We have a 1,000-gallon stripping still that we got from Vendome. By the way, that still has a crazy story. It smacked off a bridge on the Brent Spence Bridge on its way up from Louisville. Had to be returned on a wrecker back to Vendome, repaired. Cost us a month or so of production, but it was worth it. It's a great still, and we have a 600-gallon spirit still that we had in our old place that we got from Specific Mechanical in Victoria, British Columbia.
Oh, very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. I was going to say, both nice sizes. I was going to say there's a lot of craft distillers when they start a little smaller, and then they'll jump up to a 250, and then they need 1,000. I'm like, by that time you've reworked everything 2 or 3 times, and though it's the right call, it does suck to go through it. So nice choices on going the sizes you guys did.
Well, what are your still names?
Great question. You guys are really asking good questions. And one of the things that I always tell people when I don't do a lot of tours, but when I give people tours and I tell them the names of the stills, I always tell them, if you go on to another distillery tour, ask what the still names are. And if they don't have a name for their stills, you might want to think about turning around and leaving, because every still should have a name, we think. So our big 1,000-gallon stripping still is Howard, and Howard was my wife's father. And our 600-gallon spirit still, his name is Harold, and Harold was my father. So Harold and Howard. So who'd have thunk that we have fathers that had those great names, and that those are our stills.
I love that. I love the story behind it too. That's awesome.
So the personalities of the stills, so they reflect the personalities that they're named after in any way.
Well, Howard was a high school chemistry teacher. Absolutely. So so that was the one that we really put a lot of kind of engineering and worked with Vendome to kind of come up with a still design that really worked the way we wanted it to work. And Harold, the reason we called the strip or the Spirit Still Herald is my dad was pretty much a teetotaler. He had a job in of course Pittsburgh in the steel mills, and this was back during the what was the TV show in the 60s? I can't, Mad Men. And so during that time, even though my dad didn't drink, every vendor that came in to talk to him brought him a bottle of whiskey. So when my dad passed, he had this whole cupboard of whiskeys that he had never opened, never drank. And so we kind of thought that was a good, analogy for the still, right? The still gives us a lot of whiskey, but it never drinks any of it. So that's how we came up with, naming the Spirit Still Herald.
Nice.
That's cool.
Those are good ones.
Yeah. Still names are always fun just because of, history. I've had Harold and Maude as two stills, and Vampira and Elvira, and
so Harold
then you
and
get into
Maude,
some of the odd ones.
You're talking about Golden Beaver.
Yeah.
Harold,
that's right. They've got one of yours, don't they? Or that's
Harold was our original 300-gallon still. So Chris said, I can't rename this still. His name is Harold. So
yeah. Chris is cool. I was fortunate. I got to go out there and hang out with him, and just super, super nice people. He and his wife and his kids, and make fun spirits.
Chris is the man.
I totally forgot that he got one of the stills from you.
Yep.
But
yeah.
All right. Are we ready to nose into some peat?
I think so. I'd like to dive in there.
Are you guys peat, kind of peat fans, or avoid it if you can?
Two out of three of us. Take a guess who isn't.
That could be Mitch's one.
I'm gonna be brave. Gonna try it for the sake of science, right?
That's right.
That's right. Well, Morgan, we call this the gateway to peat because, it is it's only 30% peated malt. So unlike a single malt that's likely 100% peated malt, this is only 30. So, even though it's a heavily peated malt, and we do get the malted grains from Scotland. So it is a Scottish peated malt. It's only 30% of the mash bill.
It's not too burnt Band-Aid-ish. So
no.
Man, oops, hold on a second. There's some action going on behind me. Hold on.
Hopefully it's good action.
No, that's fine. My son was just getting chewed out about bringing home some homework or something. That's all. So no, I didn't mean to cut you off.
The story behind and there's not a whole lot of craft distilleries that play with peat, and it was kind of a very early experiment for us because even back to my hobby distilling days, I was buying, I was making, American whiskeys, bourbon and rye. And my wife happens to be a huge, huge peat fan. The peatier, the better. She loves Lafroigs and Octomores. And I mean, she is just really into the peated whiskey. So, she didn't like any of the whiskeys that I was making. And I knew if I ever wanted to kind of get her to go along with this idea to open a craft distillery, that I should probably make something that she liked. So I started looking into getting peated malt barley. But when you're a hobby distiller on a 10-gallon still, you're buying all your grains from brewery supply stores. And peated malt is not a big ingredient for beer. Let me tell you that. Yeah. You can use it, but my brewery supply store that I frequented, it had peated barley in literally like quarter pound, if that size bags, and it was very expensive. So I started thinking, well, I don't think I really don't want to spend the money and make 100% peated malt because the grains would be way more than I wanted to spend. So I got the idea to add some peated malt to a bourbon mash. And so one of our original whiskeys was a peated bourbon. And that was kind of the success story, at least among all my friends who I, used to share my libations with. That was kind of the thing that convinced me that I might have something, worthwhile here, because my friends all loved it. And the peated rye you're tasting now is just kind of the next logical extension of a peated bourbon, because we're such big rye fans that we did a peated rye next. It is a Highland peat, Jesse. It is we source it from Baird's Malt in Inverness. Isla apparently doesn't export any of their grain. They're very controlling of their peats and their grains. At least that's what we've been told.
Yeah, other people have said they're very stingy as well.
Yeah.
Morgan, what do you got?
A tinge of the burnt Band-Aid, but I actually get a lot of fruit notes. I get some dark cherry, some apricot, peach. Also get some lemon. Also getting almond. Haven't had enough guts yet to taste it. So
sorry, I haven't, and I'm sticking my nose into I don't know. My brain went to fantastic burnt ends for a second. It's might just you get a little bit of the
grilled fruit with the smoked meat.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very savory on the nose and in the palate.
Yeah. You get a little bit of I'm smelling like the charcoal grill or charcoal that was used, not necessarily like charcoal, maybe like wood charcoal, but yeah, Mike, that was a good note. It's almost like you're grilling all of that together at once, which doesn't make sense, but whatever.
Oh, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I should have sent you guys the peated bourbon as well, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with peat. But the peated rye that I did send, I think if you had the peated bourbon also side by side, Morgan, you would probably like the peated bourbon even less, because our theory on the two, even though they have the same basic mash bill, 60% corn for the bourbon, 60% rye for the peated rye. Both of them are 30% peated malt, but the corn is a little bit more it lets the peat dominate it. So the peated bourbon tends to drink a bit, if not a lot, smokier, peatier. The rye is a much more formidable kind of flavor for the peat to match up against. And so, it's a much better balanced whiskey, I think. I've sipped this whiskey and I've wondered, where's the peat? Because the rye, I don't know if it's, what my palate was like that day, what I had for dinner, and I'll drink it again the next day and there's the peat. It changes every time you drink it, which I love. I think that's a really good sign of a balanced whiskey.
I think at first it definitely packed a punch of, being peaty, but as it simmers down, it's very mild on the peat side of things.
Yeah.
Very complex variety of flavors. It's really good, actually. I can't believe I just said that about something peated.
The peat is becoming part of you now.
Oh boy, watch out. Hide the scotch. No. But yeah, this is actually really good. I'm enjoying this a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Good.
Wow.
I'm glad.
That's really good, because you don't like peat.
that's like me and Annis typically, so that's just good for you. I really enjoy this one. Big,
Mhm.
exciting, fun. It starts off with a little bit of peat, but like you said, and all of a sudden it twists in the rye, and that almost takes center stage for a while.
Yeah.
And then once you finally open up and breathe and swallow it, then you start getting a little bit of it back. And it is a fun ride right away. It just jumps on it, and it's neat.
That's one thing I was noticing. So much of citrus comes through, but there's like a creaminess, and then it's like a lemon oil that comes through on it.
But not like pledge lemon oil grossness. Sorry,
and the herbal rye notes really come through on it too a lot.
Yeah.
I almost get like the lemon meringue pie kind of.
I can see that. You torch the top of it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Man, that's good.
Yeah, this one's a problem for me. The good thing we're getting close to an hour because that little 4-ounce sample could be gone pretty damn.
Well, they ship, so
they ship. Well, that's good. I'm gonna make.
Yeah, that this year's batch of peated rye, we always bottle that cask strength. So I think the proof on this is 111.6 this year. So
Nice.
To me, that's my. I love the 110 to 115 proof range. Not a big hazmat guy. So that's just a really kind of, I love that proof point.
That's another way a lot of people will do the Bloody Butcher corn is very hazmat level, like 55 or above. So like I said, kudos to you on the first wheated one, and because that is a really tamed version. I mean, to be honest, I've only really given good credit to someone putting more than 10% to Gary at Woodhead. So that is a wonderful Bloody Butcher corn. Well, you know what? I've said that.
Oh,
before.
No,
there's not many people that can do above like 20 and not have it turn out being like, well, that is what's in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Oh,
yeah, that's got a. I like the finish on there because it's not. It's like a kiss of peat, and I like peat, but it's just like a nice kiss of peat, and then that rye is really holding up to that.
Yeah, it really does. They're on very even terms in that whiskey.
Oh man.
So
I feel like skipping down a road. I don't when I'm having a peated malt, but this is really fun. It's making me happy.
So what's the weirdest or most fun thing that you've distilled?
Yeah.
We did a Queen Share corn whiskey. So during COVID, we were asked by our local first responders if we could make hand sanitizer. So the only grains we had were Bloody Butcher. So we made probably the world's most expensive hand sanitizer that batch. It was 100% Bloody Butcher corn, but the hand sanitizer, the recipe for that requires higher proof than we typically can get off of our still. So we had to do a third distillation to reach the proof that we needed to make the hand sanitizer. But with our still, we were left with a lot of kind of liquid in the still that we then turned around and ran out the tails. So Queen Share is a very rum kind of specific description. It is the distillation of the tails. So we took those Bloody Butcher tails from our corn whiskey match, and we ran them as a Queen Share, and it was delicious. And we just released that last year as a 4.5-year-old whiskey. That was kind of the weirdest thing we've done, distillation wise.
Got a little happy accident from COVID too.
Yeah.
We're going to release a single malt in a couple of weeks that is also a COVID product, because we don't make a lot of single malts because we don't have a lauter facility. We can't separate grains. So traditional single malts are off grain fermentations. So during COVID, one of our friends who operate a local brewery, they were shut down. They were completely, at a standstill. They couldn't have a tasting room. They didn't have a canning line, so they weren't able to generate any revenue. So we said, well, hey, make us a beer, make us whatever you think would distill into a good whiskey. So they made us an amber ale, one of their house specialties, but they didn't put any hops in it. So it was an unhopped ale, and we distilled that, and that actually just turned 5 years old, and we're gonna release that as kind of our second ever American single malt in a couple of weeks.
Nice. That's
I'm
very cool.
salivating over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a great idea to leave, and not to be mean, but leave the hops out, because we've had a
few.
We've tried many that have had them in, and maybe one or two.
There was one that was good.
There was one that was good, and there was one that was fucking horrendous.
Yeah.
We didn't want anything to do with hops in that particular beer. So
excellent choice, especially with what you were doing for it. Oh, gotta put that down. That's my mixture is a blend. I made one already.
I'm
excited
to I'm excited to see what
how that works out. I mean,
yeah.
Are you guys onto it, Mike, Morgan?
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty even or heavy on any in particular one?
I'm getting so much of the rye notes coming off of the nose, and there's just like this hint of peat.
That's
like
in the background.
Just a tiny bit on the nose.
I thought it would be very peat forward, but it's not. I agree. Rye with just a little tiny hint.
I'm getting the wheat. That sounds weird, but
that's what I'm wondering, if the wheat's pulling a lot of weight here on the nose.
I'm feeling
mine's been sitting for over an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, you blended well.
Mine too.
And I'm getting like a cream soda, almost like sarsaparilla.
I don't have all the individual bottles here at home to try this, but I'm gonna try this tomorrow when I get into the distillery.
The rye spice comes across on the palate. There's like no proof, or no peat on the palate. But it starts off real creamy.
I'd say it's the back third has a little bit of the peat in it for me, but otherwise it's the wheat. The oily silkiness is there. Maybe a little thinned out, but
very interesting.
Took a minute, but the peat just kicked in just a tiny bit at the back. But oh man, that's a good blend.
That's where I would have expected it to kind of show its face in the back. So
but
that is a good blend. I like to play it because I did equal parts, which that's what we usually do. But
I don't get much of the dark, like bear claw note in it, like a little bit. The wheat is surprisingly playing a bigger effect than I would have thought. It was extremely pleasant. Just a bit of spice and a little bit of mint on the back end.
Yeah.
Love it.
Whoa. I like that one. That's okay. I like all of them, to be frankly honest. But even the blend, that was a really neat. I don't know what to do, because now it's like leaving me with like spearmint in my mouth. It's freaking me out because I didn't have that all night.
Yeah, there's a minty finish on it, especially when you go back in.
Yeah, but not all night. I didn't have
That's
that.
good.
That's neat. That's fun.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So
that's a pretty solid blend.
I dig that one. Yeah, I'd say play with that a bit.
Yeah,
I plan on it.
Let us know what happens.
Yeah.
But like we were saying, we try not to keep people on here too much longer than an hour. We know you're heading Eastern time zone. We just want to say thank you for spending an evening with us tonight and
Oh.
sharing these whiskeys because they are fantastic. Another distillery, and I don't say this about all of them, but I bring it up when they do, that every single one, great. Doesn't always happen. There's a couple of them out there we run into where you're like, what do you have? I don't fucking care. Pick any of them, and that does not happen very often when you go places where it's like, I don't know, you can just pick the shelf. You're good. Bring me back any bottle. I'll drink with you.
Thank you, Pat. That means a lot. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've we might be the oldest craft distillery that nobody's ever heard of. We are very focused on Pennsylvania at the moment. We don't have a distributor. We're not available outside of PA in any sort of retail outlets. We do work with a third party, Big Thirst, that they ship to 38 states. They don't have all of our whiskeys. Logistically, they operate out of DC, so it's kind of problematic to get product to their warehouse. But we're just at the point where we have a lot of whiskey now, and so we are kind of evaluating kind of how we can raise brand awareness and maybe make it into a few states. So I appreciate the exposure. Glad you guys invited me on. It was fun. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. So other than the single malt, is there anything else that's coming out that you can talk about?
Mike, we have we've been on kind of a like we like to play with finishes too. So we have we usually try to do like a triple single barrel the day before Thanksgiving. It's become a little bit of a tradition for us, and every year it has a theme. This year the theme is 3 finishing projects. So we have, and these are all rye whiskeys that we've finished. One's in a mead barrel from a local meadery that's nice. Off the charts good. We have what's the second one? A port rye, a port finish, and then we have. I mentioned earlier we do a mesquite whiskey. So about a year ago we put a mesquite whiskey into a PX sherry barrel. It's kind of our version of a peated Isla Scotch, but or a sherry Isla Scotch. Oh, it's fantastic. So I think those 3 are going to be the triple single barrel release the day before Thanksgiving. And then we have 2 really good double oak bourbons that will roll out sometime in mid-December. So
very cool. That was a nice list of things. And doing it right, because right before Thanksgiving, and it gives people something to come back for.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have me excited. Fuck, I need a trip to Pennsylvania.
I know. Immediately picks the phone to see how far it is from here.
So,
it's a fun time of year because people are out looking for unique things for gifting, for holidays, for parties. So we always like to have some really fun releases for this time of year.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. Man.
Emily's on top of stuff like always.
Yep.
But that's good.
She keeps us on track.
That is true. What? Oh, was it next? Is that next Monday?
Next Monday.
Do you want to put it
next Monday on a very special episode of Blossom? Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. It's been on here before, but we are going to go back to International Alan Bishop Day and celebrate that again. This year, there will be no Malort or McRib at this year's event. So sorry.
either individually or together.
Not happening.
Yeah, we got some samples from the trip out there last week of the stuff that Alan's been making at our old homestead. We will have there's a lot of things to go through. It could be a multi-parter, but yeah,
we were just sipping on some Maddie Gladden earlier today.
She's just always one of my favorites. That whiskey. I made sure to drive over that way and pick up a bottle a couple bottles that were still sitting on the shelf because I knew those were the last, some of the last ones he touched.
Yeah.
That's just a good whiskey.
It's good whiskey and a great story.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, like I was saying, Jim, thank you so much for being on. We really loved all the spirits that you had with us today. Continue to keep making this great stuff. What is wrong with my screen? Mike, you might need to be in charge here.
You think so?
Yeah, mine doesn't want to do anything.
Doesn't want to cooperate.
Doesn't want to cooperate. I'm moving it. You can see me trying to make it work.
Oh, we don't know what you're doing. All right, we can do that. You can do the sign off, and I'll start.
All right. Well, like we were saying, thanks, Jim, for being here. We really appreciate it. To everyone out there, thanks for stopping in and watching this great show tonight. If you haven't gotten a chance, stop out and try Liberty Pull. It's definitely worth it. But remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you guys so much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.